I think we'll start. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen.
Morning.
Good morning, members of the Fourth Estate. We are glad to have you here and welcome to the Civil Society Press Conference, which is being held under the theme Safeguarding Health, Environment and Market Access through Safe Agrochemical Management. This theme really, but also looking at our trade competitiveness and market access. And we are gathered here as civil society organizations committed to promoting sustainable agricultural trade, quality assurance, product safety, food safety, nutrition, and sovereignty, and climate responsive mechanisms, gender justice, biodiversity conservation, human and environmental health, and economic sustainability. We would like to first of all commend Government of Uganda through Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries for initiating a structured scientific and consultative process that has led to the restriction or withdrawal of selected active ingredients, including 9 molecules phased out and 9 molecules restricted. And these 9 molecules that will be phased out and the 9 that will be restricted are of concern because of their adverse effects. And this action, taken in response to evidence linking these agrochemicals to adverse human and animal, including livestock and wildlife, health outcomes, as well as environmental risks, including carcinogenic effects, demonstrates a commitment to safeguarding public health and environmental integrity while enhancing the credibility of Uganda's agri-food products in regional and international markets. We are all aware that the food that we produce, part of it is consumed here, and part of it is also exported in both regional and international markets. But also those regional and international markets have requisite requirements and measures, including sanitary and phytosanitary requirements. Uganda has experienced a rapid increase in pesticide use, more than doubling from 2,990 tons in 2010 to 6,010 tons in 2022. This is according to the Food and Agriculture Organization 2022, with import values reaching approximately 75.85 million US dollars in 2022. Alarmingly, a significant portion of registered agrochemicals are classified as hazardous under international standards. Scientific studies in Uganda have documented pesticide residues in water, in food, in air and human biological samples, such as urine and breast milk. The misuse and unsafe application, driven by limited technical capacity, inadequate adherence to post-harvest intervals, and low utilization of personal protective equipment, exacerbate exposure risks. We particularly note that children's smaller body sizes makes them especially vulnerable, with exposure potentially 10 times more than toxic than that of adults. We also note that expectant and breastfeeding mothers are equally affected. And the presence of residues from highly hazardous pesticides, which are also termed as HHPs, including substances banned in their countries of origin, highlights both regulatory gaps and the need for enhanced enforcement and farmer education. Because we note that some of the highly hazardous agrochemicals that are banned in their countries of origin find their way in different countries, including Uganda. So that speaks to the regulatory gap. That how then can we collectively work together as actors, but more importantly, government do its role to ensure that some of the hazardous agrochemicals that are banned in their countries of origin do not find their way on our market, on the domestic market. And we also note that the mismanagement of pesticides undermines food security, livelihoods, nutrition, and trade, with Uganda losing approximately $60 million in export revenues in 2020 due to pesticide residue violations. This is according to the Uganda Bureau of Statistics 2021. And there are also reports and evidence that some of our products that were exported to various markets, especially in Europe, were rejected. And in fact, government of Uganda imposed a self-ban to ensure that the concerns that emerged from Europe are addressed. And this press conference is also speaking to that and within that context, because we do not want to lose lives here domestically. We don't want to lose the market for our products. And when we have that market, we know and we are sure that the economy will thrive. So the number of objectives that we are trying to address with this press conference. And these exposures are largely attributed to the misuse and unsafe application of pesticides, driven by limited trader and farmer and chemical vendors' technical capacity. A number of vendors and farmers, because we are looking at the users of these agrochemicals, lack the necessary technical capacity to apply these agrochemicals, but they also have inadequate, there's inadequate adherence to post-harvest intervals and the low utilization of appropriate personal protective equipment, which is contrary to the Agricultural Chemicals Control Act, which clearly stipulates what should be done, who should apply these agrochemicals, how they should be applied. It explicitly provides that guidance. And of particular concern is that the detection of residues from highly hazardous pesticides, some of which are prohibited in their countries of origin, still really goes on. There is documented evidence. The number of journals that have documented this, and some studies have been done in the metropolitan area within Kampala that indicate that the milk and some other products, vegetables, have some residues. And so here we call upon government to ensure that there is enforcement, but also there is a dissemination of information to the last mile farmer or Ugandan to ensure that we mitigate and reduce the risks that are associated with such hazardous agrochemicals, but also the rest of the agrochemicals, because misuse of the same, even if they are not highly hazardous, can result into death. We note that in 2024, the Critical Review and Analysis of the Food Safety Coalition of Uganda established that approximately 65.5% of registered agrochemicals in Uganda are banned in their countries of origin, which underscores significant regulatory and public health gaps. And the proper management of pesticides is therefore essential not only to protect human and animal health and the environment, but also to safeguard economic viability of Ugandan agriculture in regional and global markets. We also recognize Uganda's commitment to safe agronomical management, which is supported by strong legal and policy frameworks, including Uganda being a signatory to international conventions, including the Rotterdam, Stockholm, Montreal Conventions, which protect human health and the environment from hazardous chemicals. The Constitution of Uganda, Article 9, provides for the right to a clean and healthy environment, access to safe water, and food security, which are all explicitly stated and provided for in the Constitution. The Agricultural Chemicals Control Act, CAP 35, as amended, provides a regulatory framework for the manufacture, storage, distribution, and trade of agricultural chemicals. With these frameworks, there is a solid foundation. However, we note implementation gaps, particularly in enforcement, regulation, resource allocation, which need to be addressed to ensure effective risk mitigation. We note that Uganda's recent actions align with ongoing regional efforts within the East African community to strengthen pesticide regulation, including such regional efforts include Kenya's 2025 withdrawal of 77 pesticide products and the restriction of 200 others, as well as Tanzania's recent ban of 805 hazardous pesticides. At the global level, the European Union enforces rigorous pesticide registration and monitoring standards, which reflects increasing recognition of health, environmental, and trade risks associated with highly hazardous pesticides. In order to implement this government directive and progressively comply with regional and global commitments, as explained, we call upon the following institutions to take action. First, the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries, and specifically the Directorate of Crop Inspection and Certification, to first issue a National Gazette notice detailing recalled and restricted pesticides, compliance timelines, and updates to the National Agrochemical Register. We further call upon the Ministry of Agriculture to train extension workers and farmers on integrated pest management, safe agrochemical handling, and identification of highly hazardous pesticides. We further call upon the Ministry of Agriculture to conduct public awareness campaigns emphasizing risk-based guidance, avoiding panic, and ensuring continuity of agricultural production. We further call upon Ministry of Agriculture to support exporters in meeting sanitary and phytosanitary requirements, which further contributes to reducing trade losses. We are aware that traders, especially those that export to various markets outside Uganda, require sanitary and phytosanitary certificates, and these are issued by the Ministry of Agriculture. Acknowledging that role and the mandate that Ministry of Agriculture has in partnership with Ministry of Trade, there is need for the ministry to support exporters in meeting those SPS or sanitary and phytosanitary requirements. Lastly, we call upon the Ministry of Agriculture to finalize and implement the National Agroecology Strategy, guiding Uganda's transition to sustainable, low-risk agricultural systems. We are aware that the utilization of agrochemicals is still relatively low. However, agrochemicals are being imported into the country and they are being used and misused. However, we have alternatives that are embedded within communities based on agroecological practices that farmers have carried out over the years. But to support such practices and to ensure that they become mainstream and commonplace, we call upon Ministry of Agriculture to ensure that the National Agroecology Strategy is finalized and implemented. We call upon Ministry of Finance, Planning and Economic Development to increase budgetary allocations for agrochemical regulation, enforcement, monitoring, and research into safer alternatives. There are a number of safer alternatives, but they need to be tested and approved by the relevant authorities, and it requires a budget. So we call upon Ministry of Finance to ensure that the relevant authorities have the budgets to ensure that these alternatives being championed and carried out within the different communities are tested and approved. We further call upon Ministry of Finance to amend Section 4, Schedule 4, subsection 1E of the Value Added Tax Act to exclude hazardous agrochemicals which are classified as hazardous by the United States Environmental Protection Agency from this provision. The VAT Act has that schedule 4, which generally talks about zero-rated products, and among the zero-rated products includes agrochemicals or fertilizers generally. But the general classification does not explicitly indicate which ones are hazardous, which ones are safer to use. So thus this recommendation really is to ensure that Ministry of Finance reclassifies the fertilizers, because a number of these do not pay the necessary taxes. They are waived because we know there is subsidization of agricultural inputs, including fertilizers. But what we are saying, we can use tax to ban to ensure that we restrict, but not just using tax, but to ensure that there is reclassification of these fertilizers and pesticides under the VAT Act to ensure that those that are highly hazardous are removed from the zero-rated products. We further call upon Parliament of Uganda to provide enhanced oversight and approve increased funding for agrochemical regulation, enforcement mechanisms, and farmer support systems. Lastly, we call upon Parliament of Uganda to fast-track review and strengthen legislation related to pesticide control and food safety. And we cannot really forget the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives, because it has a role here, especially under the one government approach. And we call upon the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Cooperatives to align pesticide regulations with the national trade policy and trade strategies and policies to ensure compliance with regional and international market standards. Each market has different standards and requisite requirements. We need to know them and comply with them. And a number of these export markets, especially in the EU, they reject products that have high intensity of residues. And a number of our products were previously rejected because of such, having salmonella and also residues. We further call upon the Ministry of Trade to support exporters to meet sanitary and phytosanitary requirements and reduce rejection of Ugandan produce and products. We call upon the National Agricultural Research Organization, NARO, academic and research institutions to invest in research, development and dissemination of organic pesticide, biological control solutions, and agroecological innovations. These are the alternatives. And in fact, they are the safer alternatives to the agrochemicals. So as we talk about alternatives, there are various alternatives that we have explicitly indicated in our press statement, including organic pesticides, biological control solutions, and agroecological innovations. We further call upon the National Agricultural Research Organization, NARO, academic and research institutions to support evidence-based alternatives to hazardous synthetic pesticides, including biological control agents, biopesticides, and improved agronomic practices. We call upon Ministry of Health, National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, to implement a One Health approach, integrating human, animal, and environmental health in pesticide monitoring and policy. We lastly call upon Ministry of Health and NEMA to strengthen surveillance systems for pesticide exposure, residues, and related health outcomes. We call upon the Office of the Prime Minister, given its mandate, to coordinate cross-sectoral implementation of agrochemical management policies in line with national development priorities. And we cannot spare non-state actors, including civil society organizations, farmers, private sector, religious leaders, cultural institutions, and the media. We call upon all these non-state actors to support public awareness campaigns, community monitoring, and responsible agrochemical use. But we also further call upon the various non-state actors, including farmers, distributors, and importers of these agrochemicals, to continue using only registered products in accordance with label instructions pending formal guidance from Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry, and Fisheries. To conclude, we commend Government of Uganda for its leadership in addressing pesticide-related risks. We reaffirm our commitment as civil society to support policies that safeguard health, environment, and trade while promoting risk-based, consultative, and legally sound approaches to agrochemical management. We look forward to continued collaboration to ensure Uganda's agriculture is safe, sustainable, and competitive, benefiting farmers, consumers, and the national economy. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'd like to invite first Dr. Kabanda to deepen the discussion and the issues around the legal frameworks. And then he will be followed by Dr. Olupot Gregory, who will also talk about the science. And then he will be followed by Dr. Bernard, who will also deepen the science-related issues. Thank you so much.
Thank you, dear Mr. Kafero, and thank you so much, colleagues from the media. We appreciate your work. We acknowledge that it has been a campaign. We have been here before talking about the same issue. But in the same wavelength, we want to join all Ugandans to thank Ministry of Health for having banned 9 molecules and restricting other 9. Thank you so much, dear Ministry of Agriculture. We want to thank you because now at least we've started on the journey. Now, for all Ugandans, I think we should be happy because of the action from the government of Uganda to ban at least these very dangerous molecules. But we want to caution you that as you continue to do your agriculture, as you continue to buy agrochemicals, be careful about the chemicals that you buy, because by the time these chemicals are banned, it means that they are dangerous, not only to you as an individual, but to your families, for you ladies, to your children, as early as those that you still have in pregnancy, and also to the environment. But I would want to also commend Ministry of Agriculture, and we humbly want to ask you that even these that have been restricted, there should be a quicker process to review and also ban. Specifically, for example, Mancozeb. You all know that in Uganda, this is the #1 fungicide that is used in tomatoes. For you people who like drinking smoothies, people have been advised to eat a lot of vegetables. I can see many of you eat kachumbari. So today, before you serve your kachumbari, be on notice that even the Ministry of Agriculture they've called it restriction, but I'm telling you, EU banned that Mancozeb. It is banned elsewhere. Tanzania banned it, Kenya. So we would want to request that although this is a very good gesture, but kindly go ahead and also ban Mancozeb. I know it has been given 5 years, but the 5 years, we don't know how many people will have died. We don't know the population of bees that will have reduced. We don't know how many people will have suffered maybe hormonal imbalances. We don't know how many men will have become infertile. To some of you men, listen to what we are telling you. We are not being alarmist, by the way. We are just telling you facts. They are put by Ministry of Agriculture that some of these restricted and banned molecules are causing infertility in men. And then they are also causing death in some women. So we need to encourage Ugandans to make sure that you don't buy. If you find tomatoes and they have these sprayed chemicals, please don't buy them. We want to encourage vendors in the markets. Don't, because you think that you are selling to other people, but you are also dying in the process. So we want to thank you, Ministry, for having responded to your constitutional obligation and also making sure that the rights of Ugandans are protected. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kabanda. I would like to now invite Dr. Olupot.
Yes, good afternoon, colleagues. You are most welcome. Siatini and all the other non-state actors, thank you for summoning us. We were here, I think, in January 2025. Yeah, and I'm glad that today we are not gathered here necessarily to spit fire, but to thank a government for listening. The non-state actors are not enemies of the state. They help guide on what is not right somewhere, and I'm here. I'm here to celebrate this milestone. That said, to whom more is given, more is what expected, and therefore we welcome the phasing out of the 9 molecules and the restriction of the 9. Now, if we go into the restricted 9, ametrine has been restricted to use in sugarcane and pineapples. Now, where is sugarcane grown? Sugarcane is grown where there's water. Glyphosate, cypermethrin, methrin, all those oxygenated and sulfur-containing molecules are highly degradable, but they become very persistent when they are introduced into what? Water. So where sugarcane is grown would not be an ideal place for use of those chemicals. And it is not surprising. Recent studies involving on our waters in Lake Victoria have unearthed levels of chemicals, including these ones listed here, exceeding those that are in the waters of Ontario, Superior, almost when you compare the major lakes, like Lake Victoria, where these studies have been conducted, the concentration is very, very high, and that means that the GABA does not treat it. The GABA only deals with other problems. That means you get those chemicals in the what? On the tap. So sugarcane is not, and pineapples, we eat them as we harvest them, and sometimes the spraying is even when it is being brought, and that means the fruit is not given ample time for the chemical to break down as would be required. Now, when you look at chlorpyrifos is, whether it is methylated or not, is a very persistent molecule with very malignant properties, infertility, cancers, a lot of challenges, and it has been banned. Nigeria banned it, I think even Ghana, Kenya here. So for us to hear that it is restricted for use on termites. Termites can be, by the way, termites are not pests. More than 70% of the termites are actually in the tropics, and there are over 3,000 different species. Out of these, less than 30% are pests. So these are our unique organisms. The mushrooms you eat, butiko, these are the organisms responsible for them. The ensua and the flying termites, which we erroneously call white ants. This is the work of what? Termites. So they can be harnessed for nutrition and other ecological benefits. Our biggest concern, I teach soil biology. Our biggest concern is the rate at which we are losing these organisms. And it is no wonder that all sorts of mushrooms I used to see in Buganda when I first came here in the mid-90s, they are no longer there, because these organisms have been targeted for what? For destruction. And yet there are alternative biological control methods that should be emphasized. If you have a garden of coffee and maize, and you see a damage by termites, you just spread there these wood shavings where if you have used wood shavings as bedding for the birds, immediately these organisms will switch to the wood in the wood shavings, and they will not touch your maize, because first of all, the maize, the grass, the maize, they are not palatable for them. They only resort to them as an alternative source of what? Food. These organisms have had their habitat destroyed. So how much are we doing? People are destroying forests. People are destroying woodlands to convert rangelands, to convert them into maize, rice. When the termites run out of food, they come for the what? The alternatives. When you look at, and that's also the same for fipronil, imidacloprid Thiamexom is being used on black coffee tree borer, just like Profenufos. Coffee tree borer has also a range of when you go to the farmers have innovated. We need to catch up with what the farmers are doing to actually manage these pests. Coffee twig borer has repellents. It has compounds that actually incapacitate it, that the farmers are using. We are right now we are testing wood vinegar. One of our chemists is extracting vinegar from wood. When you burn biochar, you trap the smoke and you liquefy it, and you have the chemical. And it is the preliminary results indicate that it is working effectively on what? On this twig borer. So the alternative approaches to pest control should be supported. And whoever funds your research actually determines what gets onto the farmers. We are here to fight a big war, not anybody in the government, ministry, or any department or agency. There is a big war. People have invested for decades and decades in the business of what? Agrochemicals. And they cannot just wish them away overnight. It is a war. That's why we are saying government, we appreciate this, but it is a tip of an iceberg of a what? Of a problem. I actually expected that number one on this list would have been glyphosate. But we all know who Monsanto is. Much as it sold itself to Bayer, we know how powerful that single company is. We know how powerful DuPont is. We know how powerful Syngenta is, Pioneer and all this. They are the brain, the giants, the economic giants behind these chemicals. And so getting them off our food chain is not going to be easy without a fight. And also, the fight must go with alternatives. At the university, I come from academia, there's a lot we are doing, but which we are not able to bring out to scale because we need to be supported. So government and all those who wish society and environment well should come and support the initiatives that we are developing. Right now, in the department that I lead of soil science and land use management, we are actually putting together a program. It is going to be taught both research and coursework in agroecology. It's a PhD that will absorb people. We want young minds that are changing societies, and in it you will find a package of alternatives. If you apply all the 12 or so agroecology principles, that's why I want to reemphasize the aspect of what agroecology strategy. Where is it? What about supporting curricular development? Like now we are struggling with putting together this curriculum. We need to be supported. There's going to be evidence-based experimentation. There's going to be benchmarking. All this require what? Resources to propel agroecology as a viable alternative to the industrial-led agriculture. Industrial-led agriculture came from an ideology of imperialists. And in imperialism, there is a monarch. So the rest have to pay attention and tribute to that monarch. What the monarch says is what so monoculture is their thinking. And the farming is being shifted to monoculture. Fall armyworm has a lot of alternatives. You have heard about push-pull technologies. When I grew up in Tessa, I never knew about fall armyworm because gardens were separated by Napier grass. Napier grass, which is also called elephant grass, is a very powerful refugee crop for this caterpillar moth. At that stage, it goes and takes shelter in the what? In the Napier grass. By the time it is maturing as a moth, the maize is ready for pollination, and it is coming not as a pest but as a what? A pollinator. So there is a range of, if we apply all the 4 pillars of agroecology as a set of practices alone, you will see the alternatives. And that is what scares the multinational giants behind this. Because the moment the communities realize this, then they run out of what? Business. African Union has already embraced agroecology as a practice that works for the farmers, that works for society as an alternative to industrial farming. And we need to embrace it. And that is why I want to appeal to government that this is just the beginning of our conversation. There are chemicals here on the restricted list that should be pulled out. There are a number of chemicals. In January, we had a list. So this is less than 1%. We are talking about less than 0.001% of the problem. Then I want to also emphasize the aspect of the nomenclature. You will say you have banned maybe glyphosate, but somewhere it is called Weedmaster. It is called Weedgo. So which one is being banned? We have to harmonize. When MAIF is releasing the register, it must do so with all the alternative names with which the chemical is known, because the name will be customized to the setting. If you say glyphosate, to me, a scientist, I understand it, but a farmer will not understand that glyphosate is Weedmaster. And then also the aspect of mixing ingredients. You get chlorpyrifos, you get imidacloprid, you get this, and then you are in one knapsack sprayer, you are applying a cocktail of different chemicals. There is a lot of work, and I call upon the ministry, especially the committee in charge of inspection and certification. Come to the universities. We are ready to interact and share, and also UNBS and other agencies, so that together we can come up with a strategy that actually works for the market, that works for our communities, that works for our environment, under the One Health approach. I thank you so much for listening to me.
Thank you so much, Dr. Olukot, for deepening the science and sharing really some scientific facts. I would like now to invite Comrade Bernard. We will then hear from two of our comrades who are closer to the farmers and the farming communities, who will be sharing some realities. Briefly, then we'll have a Luganda edition. Okay.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Bernard Wambale. I am the National Coordinator of the Food Safety Coalition of Uganda. I'm also the Head of Programs at the Global Consumer Center, Consent. I know my colleagues have really given us the wide spectrum of why we are here, but I just wanted to, there's already a question out there. What is leading these molecules to be called highly hazardous, for instance? Why are we banning them? Why are we restricting them? So I just wanted to inform us, first of all, that there is a criteria we use to label these chemicals as highly hazardous. Maybe we start there. That criteria has been internationally agreed upon, and I just wanted to quickly share with you that criteria, just to give us a picture of where we are coming from. One, if you have a chemical and that chemical has been proven to have carcinogenic compounds, meaning it can be able to cause a cancer, then it can be listed as a highly hazardous molecule. And some of them, part of those that have been banned and restricted in our case, some of them fall into that category. Criteria number two, that some of the chemicals are termed as mutagenic, meaning that they can actually alter the DNA or the genetic makeup of a person. So some of the molecules that have been banned in our context fall into that category as well. Number three, that some of them are endocrine disruptors. Now, your body has a system called the endocrine system, which is responsible for hormones, hormones that control your body. Now, some of these pesticides or molecules actually affect or disrupt that system. And so they're also termed as highly hazardous. So when you look at the list that we have, some of the chemicals that have been banned fall under that particular category. Number four, we have those which are toxic to pollinators, not just bees, pollinators. And you are all aware that actually we produce food because we have the pollinators. Just imagine if pollinators weren't there, then we couldn't produce over 80% of food. So some of the pesticides that have been banned and some of those that have been restricted in our case for Uganda fall under that category of toxic to pollinators or toxic to bees. And then also we have those termed as reproductive toxicants. meaning that when you have exposure to them, you can have issues with your reproduction, meaning that if you're a man, you can go into infertility or impotence, or if you're a woman, you can go also into infertility. Now, some of them, of the chemicals that the ministry has highlighted, also fall into that category, as you could look out the letter of the ministry. And then there are those which are very toxic to aquatic life, meaning that they affect the fish and the animals in the water. So you realize that the molecules that have been banned, talk about cypermethrin and others, they are water pollutants. So when they are water pollutants and they're in our water, it means that life underwater is already at risk. So we may end up having a time when we don't have fish, or if we have fish, the fish which is contaminated. So this is the background that we come from to mention some of these molecules as highly hazardous. And so this is the criteria we actually use internationally to classify pesticides or agrochemicals as highly hazardous. And this is one of the reasons why some of them have been listed for banning or restrictions. Now, when you look at the list from MAIF, those molecules that have been restricted, it doesn't mean that actually they are safe. They are restricting them because of the risk they can actually pose to us. So this criteria I have mentioned still applies to those molecules that have been restricted. Therefore, our farmers must handle them with utmost care as stipulated by the ministry, and we are yet to see how the ministry guides the industry to label them properly, that our farmers can then be able to interpret them. There's also a question that has been running in the community out there. There is a difference between active ingredients and products, but what the ministry is banning or restricting applies to both the products and the active ingredients. Active ingredients are now what I would call the poison in the chemical, what kills. But also the products that carry those active ingredients are included. So if you have a product, let's say you have a product that has any of these chemicals. So don't say that rocket has not been banned, for instance. If the molecule that is highlighted here is in that product is equally suffering the same. So I think that is also guidance that we need to give to our communities so that our communities are able to understand. Now, we also call upon the local governments because they are actually down on ground to make sure that they help the Ministry of Agriculture to monitor progress in actually phasing out these molecules. And also the Ministry of Health, we are aware that you have put different timelines for different chemicals. This would mean that then we need a very clear monitoring structure or strategy to make sure that those that are supposed to be banned by December and those that are supposed to be taken off by by June, and then those that have been given 3 years. So there are different ranges which we need to communicate very clearly to our communities so that we are all moving together, we are moving at the same pace. As civil society organizations, we are really committed to supporting government in awareness creation, but also doing more research to make sure that actually these molecules have gone off the market or they have remained on the market. We shall keep informing the media on the next steps probably. If we found these molecules after June, what happens? So we shall keep engaging with government, but also the media personnel and the communities. We want to thank you for listening. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'd like now to invite all the media so we could proceed like that. It's going to be brief, then we have the evaluation. We will come back to Comrade Frida after these comments have made their submissions.
Thank you very much, colleagues, and to our esteemed listeners. I am called Medias Bihunirwa. I work as the head of programs for participatory ecological land use management, Pelham Association, the regional secretariat. And we have presence in 14 countries in Africa. And the issue of pesticides, I want to link it to what is happening, what you're seeing here in Uganda, the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries has done in Uganda also links to continental and global levels strategies that are happening. Now, when you look at the global level, I will take it to the EU level. the European Union banned over 200 pesticides, and they are well labeled on their website. And because these chemicals are toxic or highly hazardous, and these same chemicals, unfortunately, the same chemicals are restricted for use in the EU, but they are produced. There are some companies that continue producing them in EU for export to third countries. Africa, of course, over 10% of that comes to Africa from EU, and then Uganda also receives that. You can imagine over 200. So the onus is on us also as a country to try and also look at the EU website and check the number of chemicals that we have in the country. You just have to go to that website and type in the name of the chemical, and they will be able to give you all the information, why it was banned, what are the, I think what Bernard has talked about, why these chemicals were banned. But what we continue as civil society organizations here in Africa and Europe, we have come together to campaign against that. We are saying that that is the double standard at EU. What is toxic to EU is toxic to elsewhere, because all human beings, call it and animals, the environment is one and the same. We have the same blood. So we are also doing our part as civil society fraternity, the civil society fraternity from Africa and those from Europe, and we have been running that campaign. And what we are pushing for is an export ban at EU level for all those chemicals that have been banned in EU. There should be an export ban, because EU has its own chemical strategy. They have what you call the chemical strategy for 2020 that really stipulates that EU will lead by example and will not and will ensure that there is sustainability and protection. So we are pushing for that ban at that level. Then at the African Union level, Africa level as a continent, we have the Bamako Convention that is really protecting us as a continent against these highly hazardous pesticides. So we want to look at what Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, and other countries are doing. You know that we have porous borders. We are looking at how the continent, African Union, can also be able to institute an import ban, because we have porous borders. Something will be banned here in Uganda, it will find its way in Kenya. You understand that? So as a continent, we must be able to protect our people. We must be able to protect our environment, and also be able to invest in the agroecological alternatives. And we have the capacity as a continent, because we are losing a lot of money by subsidizing these chemicals. Yet we can be able to look at the alternatives that are there, can be upscaled and ensure inclusive and safe food for our people, and also environmental health. We have been running a campaign, intercontinental campaign against these highly hazardous or toxic pesticides as civil society from Africa and Europe. And we have been able to collect 18,884 signatures across the world. And all of them are they've been able to sign. And 143 organizations across the world have signed this petition. Actually, out of the 18,884, majority of those signatures come from Europe, with over 7,000 signatures from Africa, which shows that this problem we are looking at here is really a global problem. Even the European civil society and also individuals are together with us, that we need the health. When you talk about the health of a human, when you talk about human health, we are talking about human health of everyone across this globe. When we are talking about environmental health, we are talking about environmental health for everyone across the world, because we are one people. What is toxic elsewhere in those countries, whatever is produced in those countries must be banned. And then we have to protect ourselves. So I think we have a big role to do, that we have to look at multi-level kind of interventions, the country level interventions. Of course, we commend the Ministry of Agriculture animal industry and fisheries, MAIF in Uganda, for taking that step and following Kenya and Tanzania. And we are calling for more of the member states of AU to do the same, but also at AU level to institute an import ban on these chemicals. And I think that we will continue to pursue as the civil society organizations in Africa together with those civil society organizations in Europe. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Let's continue briefly.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Francis Nsanga, and I work with Pelham Uganda on a very important initiative called the Knowledge Hub for Organic Agriculture and Agroecology in Eastern Africa. I want to thank the Ministry of Agriculture, Animal Industry and Fisheries for this important step that they've taken to highlight the chemicals that we need to eliminate on the market. But I want to focus on the alternatives. When the ministry bans what farmers have been using, what are the alternatives? I want to focus on that in my message. So in line with the challenge at hand of eliminating the dangerous and bad chemicals that we are talking about, Pelham Uganda and partners have worked for now 30 years in the area of building capacity of smallholder farmers in using agroecological approaches and organic practices in producing food. The agroecological practices are the practices that leave our environment healthy, but also produce health food. And we have done this for over 30 years. On the initiative that I'm leading on, the Knowledge Hub for Organic Agriculture and Agroecology in Eastern Africa, we have built capacity of people we call multipliers. In the government setting, that would be equivalent to the extension workers. We have built capacity of over 1,800 multipliers across Eastern Africa. And in Uganda, we have over 300 young men and women who know what to do when it comes to agroecological inputs and practices. So we have alternatives in place, and the alternatives are cheap and available locally. So we want to encourage that all of us who are here, we take this message to everyone, especially the media, help us to highlight the fact that we have alternatives in place. You have had the different approaches, agroecological approaches that we've highlighted, the pull and the pull-push technologies and all the agroecological alternatives that we are talking about. We have agropreneurs, young men and women who are entrepreneurs in the sector of agriculture. They have come up with inputs that we call agroecological inputs, biopesticides that can be used on farms to produce health food, but also leave the environment healthy. So this is what we've been doing, and we continue to do it. We know that the numbers that we are talking about here is just the beginning, and we need everyone to come on board. We want to encourage the agro input dealers, the people who are selling the agro inputs, to embrace agroecological products because they are already on the market. We have a number of products right now that are organic and certified on the market, and there are many more that are coming. And even those that have not been certified, we encourage the government, especially through the Ministry of Agriculture, to support such initiatives and have such products listed and certified. And we also want to encourage all of us who are here, because we all eat food, to be aware that we need to eat health food. We have been running a campaign called Know What You Eat since 2022. And this campaign has been run by majorly civil society actors. And we want to encourage all of us who eat food to know what we eat. Pay attention to where the food is coming from. Pay attention to who is producing it. Pay attention to what has been used, because it starts with your interest in knowing how that food is produced. That will help everybody else. And this campaign is still going on. When you go online, you'll find it, and there are many facts around why you should eat health food. Of course, it is obvious, but if you want the details to know why you should and encourage others, these materials are already available online. And we still work with civil society organizations. Pelham Uganda is a network of over 70 civil society organizations across the country. And we are approaching 4 million farmers through these organizations. We serve farmers through these organizations, and our work is to build their capacity to be able to use alternative agriculture production practices. So I want to thank you very much and encourage all of us to embrace the use of agroecological input because they are available, but also to encourage, most importantly, the dealers, the agro input dealers, to embrace organic and agroecological products because they are available. Thank you very much, and we wish you the very best of this campaign.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is David Oming. I work with Eastern and Southern Africa Small Scale Farmers Forum, ESAF Uganda. And I want to say that this is a very big step to the protection of our small scale farmers in communities. But also I want to allude that these chemicals that are banned are still in the communities. They are still in our agrochemical shops there. So who is liable for the effects that it will cause on our farmers? So after the period that it has been given, we need to see who is going to take responsibility of the impact that or the effects that is going to cause in the community. We also need to cause awareness on this ban, because in the communities there, most of the small scale farmers are not aware. So we need to reach the communities. We need to develop IEC materials translated in the languages that they can understand to ensure that they are safe and they are producing sustainably. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Orochi Frida Laura, and I work for the Food Rights Alliance. We commend government for this directive to ensure that we have safe agrochemicals in our food systems. But as civil society, would like to appeal to government for constructive dialogue between all the actors across the value chain, because you realize that if we do not have dialogue, we are going to face challenges during the implementation of this directive, because there are very many actors involved, from the farmers, from the traders, from the importers. So there is need to demystify this information so that it is understood by the farmers. At the same time, there is need for constructive dialogue with the private sector, especially the importers, because we know they are continuing to import this chemical. So what is the way forward for them? This dialogue needs to be had with them. Even the academia, the research institutions, can they be brought on board to present alternatives to this ban so that we do not see things coming to a standstill? As civil society, we are committed to supporting and working with government to ensure the successful implementation of this directive. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We are briefly going to have Uganda version in not more than 5 minutes. Then we can do interviews as you wish. Okay, briefly. Yes, maybe we can do the questions after. Okay. Tubeebaza mwenna bannamawulire olw'omulimu gwe mukola omulungi okutwala amawulire n'endowooza z'abakugu mu bantu ab'enjawulo abakwatibwako ku nsonga eno naye ne gavumenti, era nga tulowooza nti olukuŋŋaana luno lwe tukubye olwa bannamawulire lujja kutuyamba okuba nti eddoboozi lyaffe ku nsonga y'okuba nti ebyobulamu, ebyembeera y'ensi eno n'obutale bwaffe bye tulya byonna tetubifunamu buzibu nga tukozesa ebiragalalagala eby'enjawulo ebiri ku katale, kubanga tukimanyi nti Uganda eyina enkola nti eddagala ery'enjawulo oba ebiragalalagala bikozesebwa mu byobulimi. Waliwo ebituyamba okutumbula ebyobulimi byaffe, nti ebimera byaffe tebiwotoka, tebifa, ebyo weebiri naye ate waliwo n'ebirala okunoonyereza okw'enjawulo kulaze nti waliwo ebiragalalagala oba eddagala erikosebwa mu byobulimi eririna obulabe naye nga tetunnagenda mu bulabe obuli mu ekyo twebaza gavumenti ne minisitule yaffe ey'ebyobulimi ng'ebitongole by'obwannakyewa nti gavumenti yavuddeyo n'eruŋŋamya ku ddagala oba ebiragalalagala 18 nga kuliko 9 ebyo ebigenda okuggyibwa mu katale naye ate n'ebirala 9 ebigenda okuba nti enkozesa yaabyo eriko okuluŋŋamya gavumenti kwewadde ku nkozesa yaabyo oba mu lufuutufuutu kye twandigambye nti 9 molecules phased out and 9 molecules restricted nti birina obulabe bungi nnyo bwe bireeta ku bantu ku bisolo ne ku bimera ate n'abantu ababikozesa era gavumenti evuddeyo nga eddoboozi lya gavumenti likwataganira wamu n'amaloboozi amalala ag'ensi endala ezivuddeyo nga Kenya okulaba nti bakola okunoonyereza ku biragalalagala oba eddagala erikozesebwa mu byobulimi nti ebyo ebirina obulabe bijjibwamu naye n'ekirala nti tutunuulira nti Uganda ng'ensi endala zonna eyongedde okuba ng'ekkiriza eddagala erikozesebwa mu byobulimi ery'enjawulo okuyingira mu ggwanga mu ddagala lino eriyingira mu ggwanga mulimu ery'obulabe naye ng'ate eddagala erimu ery'obulabe eriyingira mu ggwanga gye likolebwa tebakyalikozesa oba waliwo okukugira enkozesa yaalyo naye wano tulabye nti erimu libadde likyayingira awo nno gavumenti bw'ebanga evuddeyo okuluŋŋamya ku nsonga eyo kirungi nnyo era tugyebaza naye ate tugikoowoola nti mu kuluŋŋamya kuno ku nsonga eno eyokozesa eddagala erikozesebwa mu byobulimi oba ebiragalalagala mu byobulimi bwonna si kulima bimera byokka n'okulunda byonna nti eyongere okuluŋŋamya okw'enjawulo nti wadde okuluŋŋamya kuno kwafulumira mawulire twetaaga nti gavumenti etuuke mu bitundu byonna ku bantu bonna ebuwa omukisa okwogerezeganya ne gavumenti nga bulijjo bwe twogerezeganya nayo kuba tugyebaza nti tukolaganira wamu okulaba nti tukola ku nsonga z'ebyobulimi ez'ebyobusuubuzi ez'abamusigansimbi n'ebirala ebigwa mu kkowa eryo naye ne kweno ensonga ey'ebiragalalagala oba eddagala erina obulabe ku bulamu bw'abantu ku bisolo ku bimera n'enkozesa yaalyo nti esobola okukosa omuntu alikozesa kubanga abantu bangi bakozesa eddagala lino nga tebamanyi nkozesa yaalyo gavumenti eyongere okole okuluŋŋamya ku ebyo naye ate tutunuulira nti ebiragalalagala bino ebimu gavumenti by'eggyeeyo okuba nti eruŋŋamyako nti enkozesa yaabyo nga Juni 3 tebigenda kuddamu kukozesebwa birina akakwate ku kuba nga bireeta obulwadde bwa kansa ate ng'obulwadde bwa kansa kirwadde kitawaanyiza nnyo eggwanga lino nti mawulire kumpi buli wiiki tosobola kusubwa oba butalaba muntu nti afudde kansa eyo nsonga nkulu naye ate era tulabira ddala nti okunoonyereza era okw'enjawulo mu bitongole eby'enjawulo n'abantu mu 2022 kwalaga nti ebiragalalagala bino byeyongedde okukozesebwa ate ebyobulabe nabyo mwebiri katale kaffe naye naddala nti ebiragalalagala bino bisigadde nnyo mu mata getunywa ate ne mu kye twandiise enva endiirwa ze tulya nti bisigalamu nnyo nti tebiggwamu olw'enkozesa yaabyo ennyingi naye ate ebiragalalagala bino birina obulabe ku baana abato kuba omubiri gwabwe guba tegunneezimba nti n'amawuggwe g'abaana abato gaba teganakula bulungi kuba nti ebiragalalagala bino galina engeri gye gabirwanyisa ekyo nno kya bulabe naye ngera tulaba nti enkozesa embi ey'ebiragalalagala bino eyina ebintu eby'enjawulo ebibi byeyongedde okuba nti emmere yaffe gye tulima oba gye tulya ebiragalalagala birese engeri ey'enjawulo embi ku mmere gye tulya ku mirimu ebyobulamu ebyobusuubuzi nti waliwo ebitongole eby'enjawulo n'ebya gavumenti ebivuddeyo okuluŋŋamya nti singa tetukyusaamu mu ngeri gye tukozesa ebiragalalagala bino tujja fiirwa obutale obwamuno mu ggwanga lyaffe n'obwa wabweru mu East African Community oba ne Bulaaya eyo ng'era tulaba nti Uganda yafiirwa obukadde 6 obwa dola za Amerika mu ebyo bye tutwala mu mawanga ag'e Bulaaya mu 2020 ezo nno ssente nnyingi naye nga okufiirwa kwa ssente zino kwava kakwate akokozesa ebiragalalagala nti obutale bungi obw'e Bulaaya bulina emitendera oba ebintu eby'enjawulo bye buteekawo nti omuntu atwala ebintu byonna eby'obusuubuzi eby'obulimi alina okuba nga akakasa oba nga bakola okunoonyereza okw'ekikugu nti ebintu byatute tebirina bulabe ku bulamu. Naye ate era ekirala tulabye nti ebiragalalagala bino bingi si kimu si bibiri wabula bingi nnyo naye ate ebirala nti birina engeri gye bikyusa amannya oyinza obutamanya nti kya bulabe kubanga erinnya ddala. So gavumenti tugisaba ate nga tugikoowoola nti eveeyo mu bulambulukufu eruŋŋamye ku biragalalagala bino okusukka ku 18 bye yaluŋŋamizaako eruŋŋamye ne ku birala byonna ebikozesebwa mu by'obulimi nti kino omukugu yaba akikozesa oba kino kikozese ng'oyambadde ekibikka ku maaso ku nnyindo ku mimwa n'okuba nti tebikutonnyako. Naye wadde ne ekizibu ekyo wadde ekizibu weekiri tulaba nti gavumenti erina amateeka ag'enjawulo agafuga abantu embeera y'obulamu n'ebintu eby'enjawulo nti tulaba nti Uganda erina amateeka ag'ensi yonna ge yeegattako nga kuliko erya Rotterdam, Stockholm, Montreal Conventions ezikwata ku bulamu bw'abantu kuliko embeera y'obulamu n'ebirala n'enkozesa y'ebiragalalagala ne constitution y'eggwanga lyaffe akawaayiro oba article 39 erina engeri gy'erambika ku ngeri y'okuba nti tufuna oba ffenna tukwatiramu okuba nti ensi gye tubeeramu yeeyagaza ate terina bulabe ku ffe nti n'amazzi ge tunywa nga nago malungi n'emmere gye tulya. Naye ate ne minisitule y'ebyobulimi oba gavumenti erina amateeka ag'enjawulo agakwatagana ku biragalalagala bino. Waliwo etteeka eryakolebwamu ennongoosereza Agricultural Chemicals Control Act CAP 35 eriraga oba erirambika ebiragalalagala bino engeri gye bikolebwamu, gye biterekebwamu, gye bisaasaanyizibwamu ne gye bitundibwamu katale. Naye wadde amateeka gano weegali tulaba nti enkozesa yaago erimu ebirumira nti mangi nnyo weegali naye gatudde tegannaba kozesebwa bulungi n'obuwaayiro obugalimu tebunnaba kozesebwa bulungi. Ekyo nno kitegeeza nti gavumenti erina okuba nti enkozesa yaago egyongeramu amaanyi ate ng'ekwataganira wamu n'ebitongole byonna kuba gavumenti nnene. Waliwo ekitongole eky'obyobulimi, waliwo eky'omutindo, waliwo ebitongole eby'enjawulo eky'ebyobusuubuzi byonna ebyo nga bikwataganira wamu n'ebitongole by'obwannakyewa n'abantu abali mu byettunzi by'ebiragalalagala bino nabo babeere nga balina enkwatagana oba nga bakolera wamu ne gavumenti okulaba nti ebiragalalagala bino biva katale. Nayogedde ku nsonga y'okuba nti obutale bwaffe obw'e Bulaaya ng'aka European Union ebintu byaffe bingi bibadde bigobebwa olw'okuba nti birimu ebisigalira by'ebiragalalagala bino. N'olwekyo nti okuba nti obutale bwaffe tetubufiirwa tubeere nti ebiragalalagala bino waliwo engeri gavumenti gy'erambiseemu ku nkozesa yaabyo n'okuba nti tebyongera kutta bantu, tebyongera embeera yaffe gye tuwangaliramu n'ebitundu bye tuwangaliramu tebiina buzibu bw'amaanyi. Naye ate naddala okusinga gavumenti yeetaaga eyise oba eteeke mu mawulire oba mu gazeeti ekiwandiiko namutayika nga kiraga byonna ebyo ebiragalalagala ebigobeddwa mu katale ddala nsalessale gwe baataddewo owanga 3 June naye n'ebyo ebiragalalagala ebirala nti enkozesa yaabyo gavumenti erina okuluŋŋamya kwetaddewo. Ekyo nakyo ekifulumye mu mawulire ne mu mitimbagano egy'enjawulo eteekawo n'okuluŋŋamya okw'enjawulo ng'ekolera wamu n'ebitundu eby'enjawulo mu Uganda. Naye ate waliwo abalimisa mu bitundu eby'enjawulo nabo gavumenti yeetaaze eyongere okubabangula n'okuba nti bakola omulimu gwabwe ate n'omuwendo gwabwe gavumenti egwongereko abalimisa babeere nga batuuka ku buli muntu kubanga era tukimanyi nti omuwendo gw'abalimisa tegutuukiridde bwetaavu. Eyongere ku muwendo gw'abalimisa naye n'okuba nti ekozesa bannamawulire ngammwe okuba nti obubaka mu butuusa ku bantu n'amawulire ate ng'ebawa n'ebyo ebituufu bye mulina okutwala mu bantu. Ekitongole kyaffe eky'ebyensimbi nakyo kyongere minisitule yaffe y'ebyobusuubuzi ensimbi okuba nti program ya agroindustrialization egatta ebyobulimi n'ebyamakolero ddala ebyokunoonyereza research eyongerwamu ensimbi nti ebitongole by'okunoonyereza ebya gavumenti nga ekya NARO na CORI n'ebirala byongera okunoonyereza okulaba nti ebiwuka bino tubirwanyisa tutya nga tukozesezza ki so si kuba nti tukozesa biragalalagala ebyo ebyobulabe byokka naye waliwo n'enkola endala ezitali za bulabe ze tusobola okukozesa naye ng'ekyo kyetaaga okunoonyereza n'ensimbi naye mu tteeka erya VAT Act waliwo okuggibwa omusolo ku biragalalagala oba fertilizers ne pesticides ebyenjawulo nti okuggibwa omusolo oba mu lufuutufuutu ekiyitibwa zero rated products nti tukolemu ennongoosereza nti ebiragalalagala bino tebinnyonnyoddwa bulungi muntu kubitegeera kubanga byonna biina engeri gye biggibwako omusolo oba omusolo bwe gukendeezebwako kati awo nno tukowoola gavumenti nti eyongere okukola ennongoosereza mu tteeka eryo eruŋŋamye nti ebyo ebyobulabe ebeerenge ebiggiddemu ddala ng'ebyo byokka ebitali bya bulabe bye biggiddwako omusolo ebyobulabe biviiremu ddala Parliament yaffe eya Uganda eyina omulimu gw'okubaga amateeka ne ababaka baffe abapya bali kumpi kulayizibwa naye nga balayizibwa balina okuba nga bamanya nti waliwo obulabe abantu ffe mu bitundu bye bakiikiridde bwe twaŋŋanga naye ate obumu butuyinza nti bantu bangi bafudde kansa so omubaka ayina omulimu gw'okwekenneenya amateeka n'okulondoola amateeka gano ge twogeddeko ng'ababaka babeere nga bakuba ebirowoozo okuba nti gakolebwamu ennongoosereza ate tugakozesa okuba nti tutuuka ku biruubirirwa byaffe nti ensi yaffe ebeera yeeyagaza abalimi balima ne batafuna bulabe mu bintu bye bakozesa ng'ebiragalalagala oba eddagala mu by'obulimi naffe ebitongole by'obwannakyewa tukowoola gavumenti nti etuyite twogerezeganye kuba weetuli si kugiwakanya naye okwongera okubaganya ebirowoozo n'okuwaayo amagezi gaffe ag'ekikugu okuba nti ekizibu kino eky'ebiragalalagala twongera okukyeŋŋanga ate n'okukivuunuka kubanga ensi nnyingi mu East Africa nga Kenya zaanokolayo ebiragalalagala nga 77 ebirina obulabe naffe wano nga tunokoddeyo ebiragalalagala oba eddagala mu mitendera egy'enjawulo nti 18 tube nga twongera okuluŋŋamya nti bino bya era birina ebyenjawulo ebibi eddagala lino lye bikola ku bantu nti byonna biggibwe mu katale Juni nsalessale ali kumpi kubanga era nsalessale ali kumpi ne budget era budget omwezi gwa Juni kumpi yeegutwala gwonna naye nga tukyamuka olwa budget tukyamuke n'okuba nti gavumenti ensalessale gye yataddewo ebeera nga naye eteekebwa mu nkola tubeere nti ekizibu kino tukigonjoola ate nga tukiwona mwebale nnyo okumpuliriza erinnya nze Kafeero Herbert nga ndi mumyuka wa akulira ekitongole kino ekya CRTN mwebale nnyo ebibuuzo Kanso Kabanda
mwebale nnyo bannamawulire nyongera okugatta eddoboozi ku ffe ng'aba ebitongole eby'obwannakyewa erigamba nti twebaza nnyo minisitule y'ebyobulimi mu ggwanga lino eyasazeewo n'egamba nti bannayuganda eddagala lino lye mufuuyiza libatta ate teritta bantu byokka litta obutonde bw'ensi ate teritta butonde bw'ensi bwokka naye n'abaana bammwe abagenda okujja mu maaso kati munnayuganda olina okwegendereza bino wammanga ekisooka ensonga ezimu ezaweereddwa ate bulijjo tubibagamba naye ng'abantu babikwata katono ensonga ezimu ezaweereddwa eddagala lino lifuuyira ki abamu mufuuyira omuddo mufuuyira ekimuli kanfuuyira ekimuli kireme kugwa mufuuyira ebiwuka mufuuyira ennyaanya naye abakugu bagambye nti eddagala lino litta amaanyi g'ekisajja eddagala lino terisse basajja neeyano bannayuganda abasajja twalikwataganidde wamu ne twebaza minisitule buli atunda ebidagala bino ne tumwambalira oba tumuyoola kigwo mulekeraawo okutuguza ebidagala bino kakati leero bw'oba walidde Rolex nga walidde Rolex uliriza kubanga Rolex yammwe mugikola mutya mukwata chapati ne muteekamu amagi tomanyi ne gye gaavudde ne muteekamu ennyaanya ne muteekamu ne cabbage kakati ebyo babibawa bibisi kakati oli yagenze mu nnimiro yataddemu ogudagala ogwo era nammwe mukirabe mugenda ku nnyaanya ziba zijjudde omudagala kakati bw'omala obbiteekamu bakubuulidde tojja kuddamu kwekwasa amaanyi go bw'oganoonya nga tegakyawera manya Rolex gye walya jjo ezo tuziveeko ennyaanya ezo enfuuyire biki tubiveeko kubanga bwe tunaabivaako tetujja kujjawo bulimi naye gavumenti kijja kugiwa embavu ne bannasayansi baffe kubanga ebyokufuuyira ebitali bya bulabe weebiri naye obuzibu bwe tubadde tusinga okuba nabwo nti bano abaleeta bino ebyobulabe babadde tebagambwako naye kati ekirungi nti minisitule ekoze eki ebatugambiddeko kati twagala tusitukire wamu nga bannayuganda tukoleganire wamu bannange ettaka lifudde mwenna bali eyo abalimi mukimanyi nti kati n'okubalimba babalimba mbu bw'oba tokozesezza mu ddagala tojja kufunamu ofuuyira otya entangawuuzi ffenna tulye n'olina afuuyira amala okufuuyira entangawuuzi buli kantu ke twagala okulya kwegamba mulinga nga abatubonereza naye kati Katonda atusaasidde nti ne minisitule evuddeyo kati tewakyaligamba n'abalamuzi nsaba muwulire kuba kakati tujja gye muli bulijjo bwe tujja nga mwekwasa bannasayansi tebannatugamba naye kati bannasayansi bagambye kati ffe ba lawyers nga tukwataganira wamu ne Uganda Law Society tugenda tunuulira amateeka gano tubeere nga tuwaabira n'abalimi gwe tukusanga mu katale ng'otunda ennyaanya zijjudde omudagala mu kooti tukusanga ofuuyira kati we bituuse kubanga bwe tutaakole bwe tutyo oli abitunda tajja kulekayo kubanga gwe omulimi Ssekinnoomu gw'omuwa amaanyi ate bannayuganda muwulirize oli yabikola tabirya naye abisindika eno ewaffe ne tubirya ebidagala bino tufunamu ki okufa okulwalalwala amaanyi okuyongobera bwe njogera bwe ntyo muli bantu bakulu kwegamba tuli ku loosi naye nga bali bafuna ssente n'okugaggawala bannayuganda mbeegayiridde ne sekwegayirira tulwane tuve ku mudagala olw'abaana baffe bannayuganda bangi bagenda nga tebalese mwana n'ogu ku nsi oba nga bwe balesewo bakimbuyege oli ku baana bo basaba mu performinge bulungi mu kiraasi naye nga go bawadde ki ebidagaladagala ofuuyira ate ofagagula buli lwogenda mu katale gwe tofaayo ogula buguzi ng'esente zo zigenda ng'obulamu bugenda nga famire ye edobonkana ekirala lwaki minisitule eno yasazeewo negamba nti ebidagala tubiyimirize bannayuganda bangi bavaako mangu lwaki nti eddagala lino bwe ligenda mu sisitimu litandika okuzunza amayengo g'obulamu bwo ze bayita simanyi homonizi biki bannasayansi babinnyonnyodde muwulira kyova osanga omuntu omugamba akantu katono nakkuba oluyi abadde ati ono kumbe yalidde mankozeebu yalidde ebitategeereka kakati tulina essanyu lingi ffe ng'abakola mu kutambuza emmere eno okuba nti emmere bulamu tulina okufuba okulaba nti emmere tukola ki efuukira ddala bulamu tulwane tuddemu ate bannayuganda kambabulye tujja kufuna ssente nnyingi singa tutandika okuddamu ne tulima ennima eya nakavundira nga tetukozesa muddagala guno guyitiridde okulaba nga mulunde ente mube n'obusa mulunde embuzi mube n'obusa mulunde mube n'obusa mube n'omusulo ogw'omu n'ebirala nga ne bannasayansi abannalo tubakubiriza bannange muteeke ebintu ku katale ebisobola okukola ki okubanga tetukozesa bino ebitutta era ne gavumenti tugisaba teekamu akasente kale bino biweze katitizo ke tusanyuse naye tuteeremu n'akasente bannasayansi bano batukolereyo biri ebiribbayo ebitakola ki ebitatta bantu balooya mutudde eyo mulowooza muli balamu nnyo naye gye walidde emmere egundi ennyaanya baazijja eri mu bifuuyire kati balooya ffenna tusitukiremu kati luno lutalo lwa buli muntu atalwazangako muntu kansa genda emulaga olabe ekiri mu kansa sigamba nti buli kintu kyekirwaza kansa wano naye wano batulaze nti ebisinga bino bye baweze bisobola okukulwaza ki kansa. Kati bwe tubanga tusobodde okulaba nti bino bye birwaza tubyewale tubiveeko. Ministry eya agriculture wadde tubeebazizza naye tubasaba bino ebirala bino bye mwagambye nti mubikugidde. Kenya yawera ebintu 707 ate tubirina wano nabyo. Bali abannaffe aba Tanzania bawera 805 naye ate ffe mwawezeeko 9 gwokka. Kale tutambudde naye tubeegayiridde awo we tuba tulaga kaakati mbuuza aba ministry kati mwatulekedde okufa emyaka emirala 5 kubanga mwabireseewo emyaka 5. Bannayuganda mumanye nti emyaka 5 ejijja waliwo kimu kye baaleseewo ate kyo kiringanga kikompola kuba kikuba nnyo kubanga bakiteeka mu nvendiirwa ne bakiteeka mu nnyaanya ne bakiteeka mu oyo brokoli gwe mulya abamu bagamba nkolerayo awo kasimusi ne bakakubawo mu blender n'anywa bunywi nga mankoze bwamunyweredde ddala direct. Mwebale nnyo basebo. Nze nzire mu lusayansi olwo simanyi oba Dr. Bernard yali wano. Mujja kutusaasira kubanga ebintu bino naddala ebyawereddwa tebikolebwa wano biva bweru ggwanga. Kati abo ababikola babiwa amannya amazibu, kati ababigula bwe babituusa wano baddamu ate ne babiteeka ne babiwa amannya amalala. Kaakati naye yo ministry yasazeewo n'egamba okugeza namba emu alpha cypermethrin oyo bamuweze naye asinga kukozesebwa mu kutta biwuka. Oyina ebiku bye wali ofuyidde mu nnyumba yo ebyo babiweze ebidagaladagala naye sijja kugera mannya abawano ge babituuma. Atrazine bamuweze gwe katosanga ekintu n'okigula bwe kinoosomako nga kuliko atrazine kasuka oyo bomu bogenze mu Irani. Tuyina wano eyo tebanagiwera. Kaakati tuyina wano butakola eyo nayo bagiweze. Obuzibu bwebwo kubanga ebintu ebimu carboforan nayo bamuweze. Mutegeene mwe kakati okalaba nkaliko carboforan sula togula. Chlorofluronil naye bamuweze. Kaakati ono akozesebwa naye muwulire nti bw'agenda mu mazzi amazzi gonna gafa ne bwe mutonnyamu katondo bwe kati gabeera gagenda kufa ebyo baabiweze. Diclovas oyo naye baamuweze kwegamba amannya amazibu kakati gwe ng'omanyi nava Singeri kati gwe wesingo bino byenjogera obimanyi kati bw'oba ogula weegendereze. Then tuyina dimethoid naye baamuweze. Then Dairon naye baamuweze. Tuyina naye kakati waliwo kati noono propanil naye baamuweze. Kati kanjogerako mbadde njogera nnyo ku kigambo kino kye bayita Mancozeb. Mancozeb bagambye nti baamutuzze. Ekigambo ky'Oluganda baamutuzze tebannamuwera naye bagambye nti mu myaka 5 tajja kuddamu kola ki kukozesebwa. Kitegeeza ki? Baatugambye dda wano nti ono Mancozeb ekyo ekidagala ekyo kye mufuuyira ku nnyaanya kyonoona omuntu bw'alya kigenda mu nda eyo ne kitataaganya prosesi y'okulya n'okukuba emmere. Kyova olaba abantu abasinga bajja kufuna nga balina ulcers, abantu balina diabetes, abantu balwadde stomach cancers, abantu balwadde ebintu ebyo byonna. Ekintu kino kye kivunaanyizibwa. Ekyokubiri, abakazi ababonaabona n'okuzaala, nze bannange sizaala sisindika bansala busazi, omwana anfiiridde mu nda, omwana agenda kino, naddala mu abali eyo mu kyalo mumanyi bye muyitamu. Ekirala olususu lwo. Ekyokuna, bano bwe baali bakiwera mu gundi mu EU bagamba nti ekintu kino tukiwera kubanga kirwaza kansa. Kakati gwe bw'oba ofuuyira ennyaanya ate Abannayuganda temuwulira. Tubagamba oli n'afuuyira nga teyeebisse yadde nako n'osanga oli ng'akutte nakati ng'amufuuyira nga gy'oli alina omusango gwe yazzizza ate n'amufuuyira n'amukuula n'amuleeta. N'osanga oli ng'akutte broccoli amufuuyira n'eno munda afuuyirayo. Emboga bazifuuyira zibikkako buli lunaku ng'ayongerako ng'ebikkako ogenda ng'osalaasala ne bw'ojooza otya era omaliriza ebintu ebyo biridde kubanga bigenda mu lususu lwa kimera tebiri kungulu. Abantu abamu beerimba nti nja kwozaako tebyozebwako biri muki munda era oba okoze eki obiridde. Kati basebo ne bannyabo byebyo ebyawereddwa bino ebiri kuno ministry ye yakoze eki ye yabiweze. Ffe ng'ab'ebitongole eby'obwannakyewa tukolera wamu ne gavumenti tuyambako gavumenti kubanga ffe si ffe gavumenti naye ffe eri mmwe abantu aba bulijjo ffe tuli bannammwe. Kaakati bwe tulaba gavumenti kyekoze nga tuvayo nga tukibannyonnyola nga tukibagamba ne gavumenti tukolagana nayo tubadde nga bulijjo tugisaba bannange ebintu bino mubiwere. Leero etuwadde saki yabiweze ebimu ate n'ebirala egenda kubiwera naye nga bwe tukubye omulango ogutakungula kwe kusaba nti gavumenti tokoma ku kuwera bwezi kwokka. Ate mwe abali mu gavumenti mulabe kino nammwe mufa era nammwe tuli wano mu Uganda ffenna era nammwe muyina abaana nga ffe era nammwe muyina abooluganda nga ffe. Buli ayina obuyinza obusalawo okuwera oba obuleeta okulaba nti ekintu kino kikola kiruŋŋamizibwa n'otakikola era naawe ofanga ffe era naawe obonaabona nga ffe. Kati tukwataganire wamu mwe ba MPs ba members ba parliament mwe mukantiniza mulowooza emmere yammwe gye babaleetera eva mu ggulu era eva mu balimi era bwe munnyuka wali nammwe mukkirira nakasero abamu ebintu mubigula kaleerwe n'omulimi eyaleese nakati eyo tokola ki tomumanyi. Kati tubeegayiridde tukwataganire wamu tukolaganire wamu. Luno olutalo tulusobola kubanga ababifunamu si ffe. Essente zituvaamu ne zigenda nga tusigazza obulwadde nga tusigazza amalaalo ag'abaana baffe ag'abakazi baffe ag'abamikwano gyaffe ate nga tufiiriddwa n'obulamu obw'omu maaso. Kati tubasaba tukolaganire wamu tetuyomba tetugamba nti oba ffe tunenyaani naye tukkiriza nti nga tukwataganidde wamu obulumi bwe tulina kwe kubanga ekituufu tukimanyi naye nga tetukikoze. Kati tukikole. Mwebale nnyo mwebalire ddala. Benja gundi waliwo wano wandazaako. ekiro notereza embeera bagenda okulaba we bakampaka ku makya kubanga embeera system yo bagidisruptinze ekisembayo wano abasajja muwulire it causes reduced male fertility specifically bakijjeeyo nti eno ettira ddala abasajja kankikomyawo sijja kigaziya nnyo nereeta coma nereeta collapse nereeta gastric bleeding and acute poisoning singa oba okifunye mu bungi so tulina okwegendereza ebintu bino kati tulina wano ke bataddeko namba 5 carbendazim eno yo ereeta abakazi okwononeka fertility mukimanyidde ddala bannamawulire nti abakyala bangi kati basanga obuzibu mu kufuna embuto n'osanga omuntu nga talina na biddagala byabadde akozesa naye olubuto ne lugaana ebimu biva ku bino kubanga nze obujulizi buubuno ebintu sinze mbyeteereddewo bibino ministry ye yabiwandiise nti ebimu bizaala abakyala okukola ki obutazaala abamu bazadde abaana mukimanyi nga families nnyingi zitubidde n'obulwadde bwe batamanyi gye bwava n'ozaala omwana bassebo ne bannyabo kino sikyogerako mu bubi naye omwana n'omuzaala nga mulamu ne wayita omwezi gumu omwana n'akutabukako kakati obulumi obwenkanidde awo businze kuva mu nkozesa ey'ebidagaladagala bino ministry byetuyambye byetandise okukola ki okuwera kati tukolaganyira wamu ne ministry tujje ennaku n'okubonaabona okutubidde mu maka g'abantu abantu bangi baavu bamazeeko ki sente buli kasente kokola kagenda muki mu kujjanjaba abaana buli kasente kokola kumbe mwerabidde nti mwalidde emboga nga zirimu manko zeebu mwalidde ennyaanya nga nfu mwafuuyidde buli kintu abantu bafuuyira n'afuuyira ne bajula nabo okwefuuyira kwegamba bannange tulekeraawo tugezeeko okulaba bannayuganda babalimba okugamba nti buli kintu fuuyira ate katugenda nakutandika okulaba nti tugamba abantu nti ebyo babagamba bifu basobole okukomya okufuuyira okuyitiridde mwebale nnyo basebe
Tuyanza mpozi mbadde nsaba just some guidance. We need to get the names right and the titles and the organizations just for ease of attributing. Yes. Please, in case...
Ntandike. My name is David Kabanda. I'm a PhD holder in food law. I'm a lawyer, I'm a public interest litigant. And I'm the executive director of the Center for Food and Adequate Living Rights. Bwe byenjogera seewunza byebyo byembeerera ddala mmere mwebale nnyo Kabanda David PhD okateekako munda awo.
Frida.
My name is Orochi Frida Laura. I work with Food Rights Alliance as the head of programs.
Please.
Olupot Giregon is my name. I'm a soil scientist. I'm currently heading the Department of Soil Science and Land Use Management in Makerere University.
Thank you. My name is Herbert Kafero. I'm the Deputy Executive Director of Siatini, and I'm a development professional, a trade, fiscal and investment policy analyst. My name is Herbert Kafero. Yes, thank you.
Okay, my name is Bernard Wambale. I am the National Coordinator of the Food Safety Coalition of Uganda. I'm also the head of programs at Consent. Consent is a consumer protection organization.
My name is Medias Vihoniro. I am the head of programs for Pelham Association, the regional secretariat. My background is conservation science. And I am one of those people. As an organization, we are leading the campaign against toxic pesticides together with other civil society organizations at regional, continental, and intercontinental levels. Thank you.
My name is Francis Nsanga, and I'm the project manager for the Knowledge Hub for Organic Agriculture and Agroecology in Eastern Africa. We are working in 5 countries of Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Madagascar. We work with partners including Pelham Uganda, Pelham Kenya, and all other partners in the other countries. We do collect knowledge on organic agriculture and agroecology, and we disseminate that knowledge to the farmers through the different channels that are available for disseminating knowledge.
My name is David Omi. I work with Southern Africa Small Scale Farmers Forum, ESAP Uganda. We are farmer-based organization, there are 54 districts in Uganda.
Thank you so much. I think we can do a group photo displaying this signed copy of the press statement. Oh, the questions, please. Let's do that, please.
I have 3 questions.
Yes, please.
Recently, there is a habit of foreign traders,
Yes,
especially from Kenya,
yes,
who come to Uganda and
yes,
buy produce from the gardens, straight
Yes.
from the gardens,
yes,
farm gates.
yes.
Now, the Minister of East Africa
Mm,
Affairs, Rebecca
mm,
Kadaga, Honorable,
mm,
wants to restrict or to stop that.
mm,
So 3 questions. 1,
mm.
do you think this will help farmers or it is going to affect regional free trade? Then secondly, do you think it can help to fix prices or it will drive the trade underground? And lastly, South Sudan is putting a tax on trucks taking produce to South Sudan. What is your comment about that?
That's quite a lot, but maybe to start with.
Just a moment, Omukulu yamala kuteeka microphone wansi beyansize.
Thank you. And I really would like to register our support for really how our minister, the Right Honorable Rebecca Alitwala Kadaga, the minister in charge of East African Community Affairs, to really do something about the traders who find their way in the different farms in Uganda and buy produce from the gardens. That really curtails compliance to the requisite standards, but also meeting the quality requirements. Because sometimes when produce is bought from the gardens, then the control of the garden moves from the farmer to the person who has bought, the middleman or the trader. And so the middlemen, we should also appreciate that they are driven by profit motives. All they want are profits. But also the fact that traders from Kenya come to Uganda, buy produce from the gardens, also has a lot to do with the regulation. And here we think bylaws, which are untapped tools in the different local governments, could actually work to help curb this vice. Because in the various local governments, there are those that have come up with bylaws regulating, for example, the produce, the processing and trade of maize. And Siatini has actually worked with a few of these sub-counties and local governments, including in Gulu, Paicho sub-county, but also Amuru. We have worked with them to support them to develop bylaws. And these bylaws at the local level stipulate and give guidance on how production should happen of specified agricultural products. Production should happen, the processing and the trade. And I think the directive at the national level is a welcome move and pronouncement. But beyond the national level, there should be multi-stakeholder collaboration between government on one hand, especially the local governments and the various actors. Because when you look at the value chain, agricultural value chain actors, there is a lot of pressure and tension across the value chains, the different value chains. Whereas farmers are looking at production and selling, the middlemen are looking at making a kill out of what they are buying. And the final consumer will actually get the effects of either substandard products or exploitation. So at the end of it all, there is need for collaboration, multi-stakeholder collaboration, where Uganda National Bureau of Standards needs to play a role. Ministry of Local Government needs to play a role, because production doesn't happen in Kampala. It happens in the local governments at the local level. And we can use bylaws in order to ensure that there is safe production of the different agricultural products, but also processing of those products. And there are those traders that come from different countries within East African community, buy produce from the gardens, process it before it's not yet really dry to the standard, and then export it. But also the post-harvest handling, that's where much of the problem around standards happens, and the transportation, the farm storage, the post-harvest handling, the transportation up to the market. We have to ensure that standards are met and adhered to. Farmers are also really encouraged to use tarpaulins, amatundubali in Luganda, to ensure that they are not drying their maize from the bare ground, but rather using tarpaulins in order to meet the standards and ensure that from the garden to the market, there is compliance to standards. The issue of South Sudan, a number of our products, including maize and other agricultural products, have been rejected in a number of regional markets. And a number of authorities in regional markets have cited contamination of our products with aflatoxin, which cannot be disputed, because just like we have the Bureau of Standards here, also other countries within the region have bureaus of standards. So there is need for collaboration between our Bureau of Standards and the various bureaus of standards in the export markets, so that there are no allegations, but rather confirmation that this consignment of maize is substandard or has aflatoxin, and also to ensure that all the rejected consignments are either destroyed or something is done about them not to find their way into the market. Because all the rejected products, we haven't seen really action taken to ban the maize, to ensure that it doesn't get back to the market. We need to ask ourselves, where does the rejected, for example, maize end? Does it end in the market, in the schools? Where does it end? And that calls on government to do its role, regulatory role. And government is broad. Let the relevant authorities, ministries, departments, and agencies do their work to ensure that that maize, all the rejected agricultural products, don't find their way in the market. But also, it's important that we meet the requisite standards in order to ensure that our brand, the brand of Ugandan products, does not really get damaged. Because if it's Ugandan products that are being rejected in markets, it means all Ugandan products risk being labeled non-compliant, isn't it? So we need to work on ensuring that we meet the requisite standards of the different export markets. Thank you.
Mr. My focus is about UNGS. When you go to the markets out there, those people will ask you, how do these things reach to us? It means that UNGS has satisfied them to be in the market. So how are you going to deal with that, whereby the public assumes UNGS feels they are okay, and for you are coming out with that science of ensuring that the public gets to know that they're dangerous? How are you matching UNGS and also convincing the sellers out there that what they're selling is really dangerous to us?
Thank you so much. UNBS has a clear mandate to develop standards, but also after developing standards, there are different users of the standards. So it is very important that there is a multi-sectoral and all the different stakeholders are brought on board to ensure that the specific standards that are developed are not shelved, they are utilized. What do they stipulate? Who should do what? Does UNBS have the necessary resources, including human resource and also finances, to ensure that, for example, at the porous borders, there is presence of UNBS? And our research has indicated that UNBS doesn't have a presence across all the border entry points. So that is also one issue. But also the other issue is the collaboration within government. You will find that UNBS has its own office, URA has its own office, and other authorities have their own offices. They need to be under one roof, the one government approach. they can share offices so that the information really doesn't delay through the bureaucratic channels of government for them to work together to address a common problem. So that is very important. But also we should commend the Uganda Bureau of, Uganda National Bureau of Standards for the work that it does. It is great work, and the number of standards that have been developed across the different value chains, but the utilization of the same leaves a lot to be desired. But also on the other hand, UNBS waived the certification fees for the MSMEs. The certification fees were reduced, but the laboratory testing fees were not reduced. And each product is tested as per parameter. And so the laboratory testing fees are still high. So sometimes our products do not comply with the requisite standards because of those hindrances of laboratory testing fees. So we therefore call upon government to subsidize and waive the laboratory testing fees to make it easy for the users of the standards, but also the value chain actors and business community to afford standards and certification and laboratory testing. Thank you. Yes, please.
My question goes to Dr. Kabanda. Yes, you talked about arresting the traders. Have you sensitized them? Because if you are saying that if it goes that far, you can arrest traders, what have you done? Yes, and another thing is that if I have my money and I want products, I don't need to know what happened before. So really, I don't know what you're doing so that you can really curb the crime behind.
Well, it is not entirely true that traders, particularly those who trade in agro products, are entirely not aware of some of these danger chemicals. We also have evidence that one time we did a documentary where some of the traders add these chemicals in the market. They misunderstood and they think that when you add these chemicals, the shelf life will be prolonged. Some of them do. Some of the traders will even lie to you that there are no chemicals when they wipe them off. And again, it is not true that we've not done anything. This campaign has been on for a very long time. This is not the first time we are sitting, even in this tent. This is not the first time we are talking about chemicals. We call you media. We have even gone to communities. So the issue is not about you having money and then your product. This is why law comes in. This is why regulation comes in. This is why scientists come in, and like ministries like agriculture telling you that for this product, don't. And in fact, some of the products, they said up to June 30th, others up to June 31st, others up to December 31st, others up to 5 years, meaning that they are giving you a lot of time. If you had your tomatoes, sell them if you really don't care about people dying. And for you, having such a molecule is now becoming, such molecule has now been declared illegal. So if we find you with a gun, will you just tell me that because you have your money, you got a gun illegally? So these particular molecules that have been banned have now been categorized to be illegal. You can't use them. When you use them, you are doing an illegal act. It's just because many Ugandans don't care about holding individuals accountable. But in the law, whether you use human rights law, whether you use any other law or sales of good, you can hold these people accountable. And we will do it. Because if we don't do that, it will continue. And yet, the person who is selling is also a victim. You understand? Because they inhale. A person who is spraying is also a victim. So we want to have a public health approach to this problem. But sometimes we have no option but to use the law.
But I think the law. Just a second. Before we came to know about this directive, the ministry first wrote to the industry. That's what you need to first note. Before even us here knew that this was happening, the ministry had already written to the industry players about this directive as early as October 2025, 27. So, meaning that the industry is aware even before us. So what the ministry is doing, it is now communicating publicly, but after sensitizing the industry. Secondly, what does the law say? You cannot deal in agrochemicals unless you've been trained and you have a certificate from the Ministry of Agriculture. And already there is an umbrella body in Uganda that harmonizes that, UNADA, and you must have a certificate for you to even open that shop. And they give you a training for a period of time. So all traders know how they're supposed to handle these products. They know the law around the products. They know what is supposed to happen. And these activities continually happen before they can actually open agro shops. So that one shouldn't be a worry. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I think let's do the last photo.
Hey, there's a photo moment.
Yeah, photo moment with this.
Here.
You
Yes.
have
Do we have copies?
No, for the signed one.
Oh, the signed one.
We can
We
just,
can use the ones
even
that we
this
have.
one.
Yeah, even those ones. Yeah. We can't smile because it's not a laughing matter.
We are thanking the ministry.
Oh,
we can smile to the ministry. Ministry, thank you for starting this very long journey.
And then we get an aid for the manpower.
Amani gagenda.
Amanyi gagenda ganyenjeka. Abamu batali bamatuzi. Bamama baabwe baali
tobadde.
Twakiwadde mu Uganda.
But you see, there is also a very big problem.